Namaste. Mithram, could you please help me understand the essence of Vedanta, especially the concepts of Atma and Anatma? I've heard these terms but struggle to grasp their significance.
Namaste, Shankara. Of course. Let's start with the basics. Have you heard of the Nasadiya Sukta from the Rig Veda?
Yes, sir. It's also called the creation hymn, isn't it? I have watched your mesmerizing video on this Sukta, but I'm not sure how it relates to Atma and Anatma.
That's nice to hear that you liked the video. The Nasadiya Sukta is a set of 7 shlokas from the 129th hymn in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, as you know. It is captivating and compelling because it challenges the notion of creation attributed to a god existing outside space and time, whatever that means, as often depicted in organized religions. The hymn contemplates the origins of the universe, describing a time before creation when neither existence nor non-existence existed, and all was enveloped in darkness. Within this darkness lay a hidden intelligence, a deep consciousness from which a singular formless entity, that one, emerged. This entity, driven by desire, initiated creation. That is what the hymn is about. Rather than offering a definitive creation story, the hymn questions whether anyone, including the so-called gods who, if they exist, must have come into being only after the universe began, can truly understand how the universe originated. This uncertainty embodies the rational and inquiry-based approach of Vedanta, which emphasizes exploration over blind belief.
That's truly fascinating. Is it about that one that we are now going to discuss? Does it mean that Vedanta is grounded on such a rational approach?
Well, the answer to your first question is yes. We are going to investigate and get to the bottom of everything and attempt to understand the core substance of the whole of existence. The answer to your second question is also yes. The fourth and final part of the Vedas, known as Upanishads, is fundamentally made up of Q&A sessions between great teachers and their students, who were also well-read and evolved wise people. Vedanta encourages seekers to question and understand the truth rather than just accept doctrines without evidence. As Krishna advises in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shloka 434, seekers should approach teachers, ask questions, and gain knowledge until they achieve clarity. This contrasts sharply with the blind faith demanded by many organized religions.
Amazing! I am so excited. So, how does Vedanta explain the concepts of Atma and Anatma?
So, Atma is the essence that is all-pervading, while Anatma refers to anything that is not Atma. Now, this leads to an apparent paradox. If Atma is truly all-pervading, how can Anatma even exist?
That's a paradox indeed. If everything is Atma, where does Anatma come from?
That's the crux of the inquiry. Vedanta asserts that only Atma exists. The question then becomes, if Atma is all there is, how did creation occur? What created what and why? What is the purpose of creation? If we accept that creation did take place, then whoever or whatever created it must have needed tools and ingredients, right? So is it possible to create something from nothing or without raw materials? These are profound questions with no easy answers, which is where many philosophical systems and religions diverge, often leading to the creation of myths and stories to explain the inexplicable.
Fascinating. But doesn't Vedanta provide any answers to these questions?
It does, but not in the way you might expect. According to Sri Adi Shankaracharya, Atma is all-pervading, consuming everything it pervades and perceptible everywhere. These are the three main qualities of Atma. It is the essence of all things, much like water is the essence of the ocean and its waves. Just as all waves, regardless of their shape or size, are fundamentally water, everything in the universe is an expression of Atma.
So, Atma is the original substance or nature of everything.
Yes. Whenever you see an object, ask yourself, what pervades it? What is it made of? That is the Atma of that object. Shankar, you've studied the law of conservation of mass, haven't you?
Yes, Mithram. It goes like this. The law of conservation of mass states that mass in a closed system is neither created nor destroyed by chemical reactions or physical transformations. According to this law, the mass of the products in a chemical reaction must equal the mass of the reactants. What about it?
The system we are referring to here is the universe, or rather, the whole of existence. I reminded you of the law of conservation of mass to highlight the scientific fact that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but can only be transformed. Atma is not some spirit or ghost. It's the fundamental essence. Whatever you perceive is a physical form of the same substance, which is Atma or Paramatma. As I said earlier, when you see an object, ask yourself what it is made of. What pervades it? That is its Atma. For example, the Atma of a wooden table is wood, and the Atma of a clay pot is earth. These are analogies to help you grasp the concept of Atma.
So, does that mean different objects have different Atmas, like wood for a table and water for waves?
Good question. The original substance or nature of a wooden table is wood, and that is its Atma. Does this mean that wood and water are Atma? Not at all. They are merely analogies intended to introduce the idea of Atma. Adi Shankara gave the analogies of the Atma of waves, wood, clay, etc., but asks the seeker to realize the Atma of all these. If you took water, wood, or clay, they pervade all those made of those respective Atmas. But what about that which pervades all these Atmas of water, wood, and clay? It is omniscient. It is self-awareness that knows that it pervades everything. A wooden piece of furniture, a clay pot, and ocean waves each have their own Atman, wood, earth, and water respectively. However, wood cannot be the Atman of a clay pot or of a wave in the ocean. While each object has its own Atma, wood for a wooden table, water for waves, Vedanta leads a seeker to consider the common Atman that pervades all these individual Atmas. This leads to the realization of Paramatma, the Supreme Self, which is the essence of all that exists.
Paramatman is the same as Brahman, right? How does this concept differ from the idea of a soul in other belief systems?
Yes, Paramatma is synonymous with Brahman, the all-pervading reality. Unlike the concept of individual souls in many religions, Vedanta teaches that there is no separate soul that moves in and out of bodies. Instead, what people often refer to as the soul is a misunderstanding caused by their identification with the perishable bodies. When we identify with our body and mind, we mistakenly believe we are separate entities, which Vedanta calls Jivatma.
So, the idea that souls travel between lifetimes or that there are separate creators and gods is not part of Vedanta.
That's correct. These ideas are not consistent with Advaita Vedanta. In reality, the body exists within Atman, not the other way around. Remember, just as a pot exists within space and at the same time contains space within it, so too does the body exist within the all-pervading Atma or Paramatma and at the same time containing it within each of its atoms. When the body perishes, the Atman remains unaffected, just as space is unaffected when the pot breaks. In Shloka 8.10 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the Paramatma or Parampurush is the omniscient and most ancient ruler who is more minute than an atom, has an inconceivable divine form, and is beyond the brightness of the sun and the darkness of ignorance.
That makes sense. But what about cases of child prodigies and many others who are said to be incarnations of their grandfather, great-grandaunt, or so on?
The answer is simple: genetics. If a child resembles their uncle or grand aunt, it is not due to the reincarnation of the deceased elder's soul, but is a matter of genetics.
But how does Vedanta explain the manifestation of consciousness or awareness?
To clarify, I will elaborate this analogy again. People often say that the Atman exists within the body, but in reality, the body exists within the Atman because the Atman is all-pervading. Imagine an empty clay pot. Space exists both inside and outside the pot. When the pot breaks, the space inside remains unaffected because space is all-pervading. The pot loses its form and continues to exist as pieces of clay within the same space. Consciousness is similarly ubiquitous. Consider the analogy of fire. While you might initially dismiss the idea that fire exists everywhere, think about how fire manifests. Fire cannot ignite in a vacuum. It needs specific conditions: a combustible material like wood or cloth, a spark, usually caused by friction, and air with sufficient oxygen. Even when burning, fire needs an inflammable substance on which it can manifest itself. The principle is that fire and consciousness can manifest anywhere if the right conditions are present. Just as fire manifests with the right conditions, consciousness manifests through a living being with a functioning brain. Our bodies and brains are like the waves in the ocean, temporary forms of the same substance. Genetic traits and brain functions give us our individual natures and attitudes. When a person is sleeping, their brain isn't displaying their personality traits, is it? This shows that our traits are tied to brain activity. This all-pervading consciousness is Brahman, expressing itself in various forms depending on the conditions.
Please also explain to me in the same way about living, consciousness, and death of a person or living being.
As we've established, Brahman, consciousness or existence, is all-pervading. Just as it physically manifests and becomes perceptible when forming a conglomeration of atoms, so too does knowledge, consciousness, or awareness manifest through a living being with a functioning brain, or in simpler organisms, through instincts. Each organic being has its own natural structure and system, remaining alive and functional as long as all its parts are working well. When something ceases to function, the organic system stops living because cell multiplication has halted. This condition is referred to as the death of the organic system. At the point of death, the all-pervading Brahman or self no longer manifests or expresses itself as it did when the organic system was alive and functioning. This is analogous to a wave forming under suitable conditions and then merging back with the ocean when those conditions change.
Mithram, I want to let you know that as you have been explaining such vital and fundamental facts to me, I am feeling lighter and lighter in my heart. And in fact, I am also feeling more and more at peace.
That's nice. That's the power of knowledge and clarity, Shankara. Remember that Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in Shloka 438 declares the path of knowledge to be the highest.
Indeed, Mithram. Well, please tell me how I can develop a non-dual vision, or Advaita Drishti, through Vedanta that you say you have developed.
Well, developing Advaita Drishti or non-dual vision is the primary goal of studying Vedanta through the Upanishads, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and other texts such as the Ashtavakra Gita, Uddhava Gita, Anu Gita, Guru Gita, Rama Gita, and others. It must be noted and thoroughly understood that the concept of belief, let alone blind belief, does not hold in Vedanta. Instead, the path outlined by ancient sages guides seekers towards realization through studying, analyzing, researching, reflecting, and experiencing. Enlightenment is the realization that the self or subjective awareness is the same all-pervading self. While it can be explained theoretically, true understanding comes from experiencing it through rigorous research, which constitutes the entire process of spiritual evolution. Krishna says in Shloka 13:27 or 28 in some editions, the person who truly sees is the one who sees the Paramatma or Supreme Self existing equally in all beings, the unperishing within the perishing.
So it's not just theoretical, but something one has to experience personally.
Precisely. True understanding of Advaita Vedanta comes through personal experience. Enlightenment in this context is the realization that yourself is not separate from the universal self. It's about breaking free from the illusion of duality.
This contrasts sharply with major organized religions of the world, doesn't it?
Most certainly. Organized religions often use belief systems to create cohesion and ensure retention among members, typically through an us versus them approach. In contrast, Advaita Vedanta is inclusive and accessible to all. It teaches that ultimate achievement is possible here and now, without adhering to any cult, system, or individual. The key is to shed unscientific or irrational ideas and simply be in one's pure essence, expressed in Sanskrit as aham asmi, or I am. Not I am this or I am that, but simply I am. Organized religions usually impose dogmas and rituals that create a sense of separation between the divine and the individual. Vedanta, on the other hand, teaches that the divine is our very essence, eliminating the need for intermediary rituals or authorities. This empowers individuals to seek truth directly and personally.
That sounds so liberating and empowering. But what about concepts like Locas or worlds after death? I've heard some famous internet swamis talk about them, and it confuses me.
I share your concern, Shankara. Such ideas often give Sanatana Dharma an unscientific appearance. The notions of life after death, souls moving between bodies or different lokas or worlds after death, are not supported by Vedanta. These concepts are usually employed by those who may either lack a deep understanding of Vedanta or might use it as a method to attract more followers or create sensational stories. They fail to provide clear explanations. What exactly is meant by life after death? Whose life after whose death? Who is it that is dying? And who is leaving the body? Is it the soul? What is the soul made of? What are its dimensions? How can one distinguish between souls when they lack a body, blood group, face, or DNA? For instance, if X dies and their soul enters a new body and they are reborn as W, what was the name of the soul of X before it became or before it was born as X? The whole concept seems so bizarre, quite absurd and unconvincing. Some claim that souls are reborn as great teachers. However, Vedanta guides seekers towards self-realization and the understanding of the all-pervasiveness of Brahman, asserting that all beings are equally divine. No being is superior or inferior, more divine or less divine. What puzzles me is that despite the possibility of raising children through Vedanta so that their entire personality is rooted in universal oneness, parents often take pride in making their children believe in epics as literal truths, despite Vedanta's emphasis on transcending belief, especially blind belief.
So, all that a seeker needs to bear in mind is that the true path according to Vedanta is self-realization, right?
Exactly. Vedanta is a path towards self-realization, understanding the all-pervasiveness of Brahman and recognizing the divine unity of all beings. This is far more meaningful and practical than indulging in speculative ideas about life after death or other worlds.
Thank you, Mithram, for recommending that I study your publication, The Ever-Relevant Gita, a present-day rendering, and complete the Introduction to Vedanta, a crash course, available on your Udemy Learning Center. This advice has helped me align with your explanations. I now understand the importance of studying the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and other Vedanta texts directly to dispel the illusion of duality from my mind.
That's the right approach, Shankar. By engaging with these teachings, you can begin your spiritual evolution and uncover your true self, just as a sculptor reveals a beautiful sculpture by removing the unnecessary layers of impurities and stone. Vedanta is a straightforward path to understanding our fundamental unity and experiencing the profound truth of our existence.
I'm thrilled to have started my journey under your guidance. Thank you for your guidance, Mithram.
You are most welcome, Shankara. May your journey towards self-realization be fruitful and fulfilling.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Stay blessed. Jai Shri Krishna.